Occasionally something happens and you just sort of sit back and marvel at the madness of it all. There's a story today in the Financial Times. Jim Pickard has picked up on the case of the curious cousin. Do you remember? That's rather good. That's very Agatha Christie. The case of the curious cousin. Do you remember Boris Johnson's cousin, distant cousin, who popped up and offered to guarantee an £800,000 loan after being introduced to him by the bloke who he then put forward to become chairman of the BBC? Turns out the cousin got lined up potentially for some sort of plum job as well. And you sort of see these stories. Obviously, if you're me, you think, oh, God, that's another one that I didn't get into the book. But the normal people, it's just not normal. This isn't normal. And that's the British equivalent, which still, thankfully, is a little bit more, what's the word I'm looking for? Anodyne, a little less serious than the American equivalent. But the American equivalent is absolutely bonkers now. So Donald Trump, just off the top of my head, right, is a convicted sex offender. He has been heard boasting on tape about official secrets that he stole from the White House. He has been heard on tape trying to steal the last election by pressuring politicians and officials in Georgia to find him votes that hadn't been cast. The evidence is absolutely irrefutable. The vagaries of the law and court cases in the American legal system mean that convictions are by no means guaranteed. Just we have to be careful what you say at this point. But one can think of a few instances from American legal history that rather challenge naive presumptions. But it is truly breathtaking, and yet here we are. It's quite incredible. So this mugshot appears overnight, and immediately Donald Trump is selling T-shirts with it on, and despite, it's the point about the evidence, isn't it? And listen, if you're sitting there thinking, oh, Hunter Biden's laptop or something like that, then, in many ways, you're listening to the right radio show, but for the wrong reasons. Because the idea of any equivalence or balance or, yeah, but in this kind of scenario is absolutely crackers. Truly, truly crackers. And yet here we are again, with him way ahead in the polls, I think beating Biden in some opinion polls, and conscious of the fact that his best chance of avoiding jail is probably becoming president so that he can pardon himself, although that applies only to federal crimes. And I think the crimes in Georgia that he's accused of would not be subject to a presidential pardon. There was once a fella, I think in the 30s, who campaigned to be president of the United States from a jail cell. And how far back do you have to go for an absolute cold shower of normality? It's only Barack Obama. That's it. You just go back to that. Now, he wasn't the Messiah, but neither was he a very naughty boy. That was it, you know. It was normal. What was that, 2015? 2016? Just whether you like progressive politics or not, whether you're a bit racist or not, it was still just normal. And now here we are, looking at a president who's been indicted 4 times. Oh, we haven't even mentioned paying off a pornographic actress, an offence for which his own lawyer has already gone to jail. It is absolutely bonkers. And some mornings I sit here and think, how do we get back into this subject? Thankfully, since his coup attempt failed, and even, yesterday giving an interview so Tucker Carlson, this bloke who used to be on Fox News, when the Dominion case went to court, I don't know if you know this, they got hold of all the emails that were being exchanged within Rupert Murdoch's empire at the time of the coup attempt and shortly after, in the run-up to it. And Tucker Carlson is writing at length about how much he hates Donald Trump and how disgusting he is and how relieved he is that he's finally going to be gone. And yet so corrupt is this ecosystem that they're now of use to each other again. So, straight to the front of the queue. But, truly, truly bizarre. You almost can't talk about it because you begin to think that you're the one that's gone mad. Well, I can't be saying accurate. I can't be describing reality, can I? This can't actually be happening. And then, as I just said a moment ago, you see it's everywhere. And it's like something at a Doctor Who now in this studio, because we've got all the live news channels on, and for some reason they've all just put up the mugshot. Just it just sort of flashed up in front. Oh, thank goodness for that. The BBC's doing something about Ofgem. That was quite spooky. That was like a sort of Doctor Who moment where sort of the walls start closing in, and it's this big orange face closing in like the rubbish dump in the first Star Wars film. The walls are save me. And I suddenly thought back. I think it was January 2016, wasn't it? It was January 2016. And it was described at the time as a joke, but for some reason it resonated beyond the usual bilge that he was burbling about, didn't it? You'd seen the nastiness by then. You'd seen the absolute depravity, the complete absence of anything that remotely resembled morality or a compass. But you probably hadn't fully appreciated the contagion. You hadn't appreciated the contagion and his understanding of the worst of the worst. It's such a bleak worldview to think that you can do disgusting things and still be cheered to the rafters. It's such a, I think if I had to determine or describe what is most disgusting about Trump and, of course, to a lesser extent, Johnson, it's their knowledge that they can do disgusting things and retain the affection of lots of people. You know, if Johnson had got into the race when Truss resigned, he probably would have won. The Conservative membership probably would have carried him back into Downing Street, and he would have been there when the Privileges Committee report dropped and he got recalled from his own constituency. Incredible, really, but thankfully a sort of watered-down version of what's happening in America, but precisely the same problem of personality cults, corruption on an epic scale, all stemming from one depraved individual. A system cannot cope with somebody so utterly devoid of morality, so utterly devoid of ethics. Not just devoid, because that speaks of a vacuum or an emptiness. What's the opposite? Well, I suppose depravity is the word that I keep using because it seems to me to be the antonym of morality. And it's their knowledge that they could do it. That's the thing that I find most amazing and most dispiriting, because it changes the way that decent people or half-decent people or ordinary people, it changes the way that we look at the world. You know, you know, obviously that we've had Hitlers and we've had Stalins, and they can retain the support and the popularity of a population. But you always think of it as in the history books, or well, it can only happen if you're like Kim Jong-un and you've managed to completely deprive the population of information. You've managed to completely control the flow of truth. But then you look at it in your own country. If Boris Johnson launched a coup attempt, do you think that Nadine Dorries and Jacob Rees-Mogg would be alongside him or standing up for democracy, society and decency? I'll leave that question hanging. But you sort of realise how fragile stability is. It's so fragile that one depraved human can come along with contempt for what binds society together, with absolute contempt for what pass for values, and he can threaten the stability of an entire society. But what I don't get is how he knew back in January of 2016. How did he know that he really could do whatever the hell he wanted without losing a single vote? How did he know that? The people that had already decided that they backed him then, and we're talking January 2016, how did Donald Trump know that he could pick their pockets, assault their mum, and steal their votes? How did he know he could do all of those things and not lose their support? So just have a little listen to this.
The people, my people are so smart. And you know what else they say about my people? The polls. They say, I have the most loyal people. Did you ever see that? where I could stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody and I wouldn't lose any voters, okay? It's like incredible.
I mean, we've talked about Doctor Who already, but that is the Hollywood, that's the narrative arc, isn't it? That's the point in the film where the music changes, I think. Or the voiceover goes, he was right. Because it's so implausible. What did you think at the time when you first heard that? I'll play it again in a minute. I'll play it again in a second. Because that is insane. How did he know that in January 2016? How did he know that? You know, his commercial career was, impressive in some ways, although all sorts of question marks hang over legality, taxation and tactics. He presented an image on The Apprentice, but I can't imagine Alan Sugar being able to do all of the things that Donald Trump has done without losing the support of a single voter. And it's that base there, isn't it? How did he know? Maybe he didn't. Maybe it was a throwaway line that has come true. But my God, talk about a self-fulfilling prophecy. It's absolutely breathtaking. I wonder whether a script editor would actually send it back and say, nah, you can't say it. No, you can't say that. Don't be daft. I can't say you can't shoot someone on Fifth Avenue and not lose a single. But he could. What would they claim? That it was a hoax? That it was, Alex Jones, his big supporter, Nigel Farage's mate. He claimed that the Sandy Hook school massacre was a hoax, didn't he? And people believed him to the tune of millions and millions and millions of pounds that he made in profit from these people, the same people that supported Donald Trump. What is it that they understand about their victims, their marks, their voters, their supporters, whatever you want to call them, that is so utterly elusive to the rest of us? Well, I hope it's not completely elusive because we're about to do a phone-in on it, but it's incredible, right? So, this is prompted by the mugshot, which obviously I can't do on the radio. But if you haven't seen it, excellent coverage as ever over at lbc.co.uk. It's a bizarre picture, but it's one that he's already boasting about, already using as propaganda. I don't know that it will move a single needle. I think if you've already swallowed the Kool-Aid, then you'll think that it helps Trump. And if you are living in the real world, you'll think that it doesn't. It's that simple. It's an alternative reality that he has offered to people, a completely bogus reality in which he won the election and he didn't start a coup and he didn't steal documents and he didn't try and rig the votes in Georgia and he didn't pay off a pornographic house. It's completely ridiculous. What do his supporters even do on that? Do they just not care, or do they believe the lies, or have they switched something off? Or was it never switched on? And how did he know? How did he know that he could do absolutely anything without losing the support of people that you might have lived next door to, or people that you might have gone to school with, or people that you might have sat next to at work? People who are not aliens. How did he know?